Saraswati Deve Durgavani Vrajarine Nirvashisha Shunyavadi Vashachadi Shatari Namaste Saraswati Deve Durgavani Vrajarine Nirvashisha Shunyavadi Vashachadi Shatari Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Namo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo Ramo Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Charya Statra Satta Shishimari Savine Vishnu Goswami Vayu Chandra Vinamukti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribhradha Acharya Ashtatra Satta Shishimari Savine Vishnu Bhakti Saranda Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Kodi Vaishnu Vinda Ki ISKCON Big Divine Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakti Vinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Ko Bhagavan Chanak Radha Kunigiri Gobran Ki Shri Nabna Maturam Ki Shri Navadip Maya Puram Ki Shri Jagannath Puridam Ki Gangamai Jamunamai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Shri Guru Parampara Ki His Divine Grace Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vinda Ki Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, glories to the Prabhupada. Namam Vishnumadaya, Krishna Prasthaya, Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste, Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharni Vishesh Shunyabadi Paschachari Satarni. Hare Krishna. So thank you all for coming to this evening's class on the Bhagavad Gita, which we hold every evening. Yes, every evening. Here at our Hare Krishna Center on Van Hillegaardstraat in beautiful Amsterdam. Now, we are reading from chapter 6 of this Bhagavad Gita. And this chapter is called Dhyana Yoga. As I explained a couple days ago when I gave class in this chapter, dhyana in the Sanskrit language means deep meditation. It is a term that you'll very often find in literature on the subject matter of yoga. And I mentioned also there is a form of Buddhism which is very well known in the West, which comes from, of course, all Buddhism comes from India, but this particular form, it developed in Japan. It is called Zen Buddhism, and that word Zen also comes from this Sanskrit word dhyan. Zen Buddhism is a Buddhism of meditation. So this 6th chapter is about meditation or fixing the mind on the Lord. Now, most people, when they hear this word meditation, immediately what comes into their heads is a typical idea of sitting down silently and trying to focus the mind without relying on anything external, or maybe looking at a candle or something like that. But in this way they conceive of meditation, that it is some internal process, silent, involving no movement of the body, trying to stop as much as possible the activities of the senses, and then fixing the mind. Fixing the mind on what? Well, as many books as you read on meditation, you'll get different answers for that, what you actually fix your mind on. But this book, Bhagavad Gita, is spoken by Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna is accepted in India by all acharyas, all great spiritual teachers of the Vedic tradition, who have established sampradayas, bona fide schools of Vedic teachings, who have written bhasya. Bhasya means elaborate commentaries on the scriptures. So all of them, anyone you can name, of the great acharyas, even Shankaracharya has stated Narayana Parovyaktat, often quoted by Srila Prabhupada. Because Shankaracharya is thought to be the leader of the impersonalists, who conceive of the ultimate goal of meditation as being something more or less void, more or less empty. It is just one step beyond Buddhism, a shining light, Brahma Jyoti, Brahman. That is their object of meditation. But even he has said, beyond this abhyakta, which means the unmanifest. The unmanifest means there is no manifest form or activity or quality or personality. So many people think that that should be the goal of meditation, a kind of negation of everything we experience here. But he has said Narayana Parovyaktat, that Narayan, which is the name of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parovyaktat, is beyond that avyakta. So beyond this impersonal level, there is Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is Krishna. And Krishna is speaking this Bhagavad Gita. So there is no higher authority. Krishna declares this to Arjuna, that there is no truth to be found beyond me, beyond my personality, beyond my form. And so, he is teaching in this 6th chapter the real meaning of dhyan. And as I told you the other day, if you were here, you may remember, that this word dhyan, actually, we practice yoga too, but bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion. So it is not a term which we very much use or very much find in our scriptures. Dhyan is more of a term that you'll find in the yoga system of Patanjali Muni, which is this, classical yoga, sitting down in a posture and controlling the breath and withdrawing the senses from their objects and focusing the mind and entering this dhyana state and finally achieving samadhi. So dhyan, that's a term more used by those kind of yogis. But there is equivalency throughout all yoga systems. Or as Srila Prabhupada says, there's a yoga ladder. Like a ladder with rungs, and you climb up. So there is a relationship between all these yoga systems. And there's a relationship of terminology. So where these mystic yogis and meditators and impersonalists may use this word dhyan, the bhakti yogis use the word Anusmrti. So smriti means remembrance. But anu means concentrated remembrance, a focused remembrance. Because actually, our origin, this is the significance of the term remembrance, is that our origin, our original nature, our original identity, our original activity, our original state of loving relationship. Everyone in this world is looking for love. So the originating point of all of that most heartfelt meaningful sense of existence. The originating point of that is in Krishna. Therefore, the Brahma Samhita, Sri Brahma Samhita, which is spoken by Lord Brahma, this tells us that Ananda Chinmaya Matayamanaksu Yat Praninam Pratiplam Smarathamupetya, that one must become immersed in the remembrance of Krishna. Remembering our very origin. And how can we achieve this remembrance at all times? Focused remembrance on Krishna. Manaksu, the mind must become pure. You see, the mind, Prabhupada writes, the subtle body, linga sharira. We have a gross physical body, this body which... Can someone do something about these children, please? Out there, there's no reason for them to cause a disturbance in this class. Plenty of fun out there. Oh, anyway, Lingashur, yeah. Totally forgot what I was saying. So this subtle body, there's a gross body, just like we have overclothes, the clothes that we wear outside. When we go out on the street, everyone can see those clothes. But then underneath, there's underclothes. So similarly, this physical body, material body, there's an outer visible body, the gross body, but there's a kind of underclothing, an underbody, which is the subtle body. Some people call it the astral body. And that is said to be composed of three aspects. The ahamkara, false ego, manas, the mind, and the buddhi, the intellect. And Prabhupada writes, he writes in a footnote that you find in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, footnote to a prayer of Sri Prahlad Maharaj, in which Prahlad Maharaj uses the word mana, or mind. Prabhupada explains there that of the three aspects of this subtle body, the mind is the most important. The mind is the most prominent. Why is that? Because the mind is the storehouse of memories. And these memories, it's not just what you can remember casting back, to your childhood. You remember when you were a little kid riding on your bicycle. We're not talking about that. Of course, that's included. But actually, memories of previous lifetimes. This means actually the desires, the stock of desires, unlimited desires in the heart. Desire seeds. And these desires are always coming up, always coming up, always coming up. And it's the fruition of these desires, which are actually memories of previous engagements in sense gratification, reoccurring again and again and again in newer and newer forms. Old wine in new bottles, in other words. Like the Vedic scriptures say, there's really only four things going on. Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maitunya. Ahara means eating. Maitunya means sex. Nidra means sleep. And Bhaya means the fear principle. Out of fear we want to have a roof over our heads. You see 4 strong walls around us, a lock on our door. We want to have a place to live. Protection, shelter. So these are really the only 4 things that are going on in material life. We're eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So these desires are there, deep in the heart. And they keep coming back, back, back. But according to the present karmic circumstance, now we're in a human body, so we do these things in a human way. But if you're in a dog body, you'll do the same 4 things, but in a doggish way. Or in present time, modern time, people, although they have a human body, they do these 4 things in doggish ways too. And that's how they can get a dog's body in the next life. Because they don't know the human standard. But anyway, these are material desires. And these material desires are actually polluted, the polluted memory of the living entity. So as long as the mind is, there's 2 words, su, manak su I said, and then there's ku. Ku means bad. So when the mind is bad, then this is all we can remember. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending in this material world. But we have to remember Krishna. And this is Anusmrti. Concentrated remembrance of Krishna at all times. And this is the way one crosses over these impure memories. Just like, all right, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So, in India, at the famous temple of Jagannath Puri, there is Lord Jagannath. What is he doing all day? Anyone know? He's eating, yes. He's eating. He's being served chapan bhog. That means 54 times a day he's been being given full meals. Can you imagine? And we can, we can imagine eating 3 meals a day. Most people eat 3. But you can imagine eating 54 meals a day? But this is how they worship that particular form of Krishna. They just feed him, feed him, feed him. Such opulent, wonderful prasadam, and then it is distributed broadly. Prasadam means the Lord's mercy. So then by taking the mercy of God in the form of food, then our desire, this eating desire, becomes purified. Then sleeping. So you go a little farther south in India, down to Sri Rangam. There's Lord Ranganath. And that's all he's doing. He's a deity of the Lord who's lying on the snake couch called Anantashesh. And he's simply sleeping. And his feet are being massaged by Lakshmi Devi. So the devotees worship him in that form. Then you go up the western side of India from down south, and you come to the holy city of Dwarka. And there Krishna is worshipped as king of Dwarka, which is a fortress. Dwarka is Lord Krishna's fortress city, and there he's always defending. He defends Dwarka. He's fighting so many demons from there in his lila. And then finally you cross over to the north middle of India, Uttar Pradesh, 90 kilometers south of Delhi, and there is Vrindavan. And there Krishna is always the last one. He's enjoying with his gopis. But this is transcendental, you see. And we have to understand that there's a principle of, that's actually, it's universal. It's acknowledged in many spiritual disciplines, spiritual philosophies, that as above, so below. That nothing can be here if it does not originate in the transcendental realm. But of course there's a difference. There is the perfection. Here is the perverted reflection. That's the difference. See, there is the pure form of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And here is the impure form, which is not God-centered, rather it is self-centered. Here we are trying to make ourselves God. Here we are trying to remove, ignore, eradicate, ban Krishna. See, erase all memory of God. And try to be God ourselves by these things. But unfortunately, although we're trying to become supreme enjoyer by our eating, sleeping, mating, defending, we're simply becoming bound up by the coils of karma. You see, here everything is sinful. What does sinful mean? Sinful means that, yes, my desire as a would-be God, I want to enjoy. But for me to enjoy in this world, the way things are arranged is someone else or something else, some other living entities, they must suffer for my enjoyment. And that's just the way this material world is set up. And that means a cost. That means, like the Bible says, as you sow, so you reap. If you strutting around in your fancy nightlife clown suit, trying to enjoy yourself. Amsterdam is famous for the nightlife, all these clubs and places of sinful activities. So here you see Joe Cool walking down the street, all decked out in his outfit. So first thing you notice, he's walking along, real cool way. Every step he's taking, what is happening with every step? Every step, tiny living entities on the ground are being crushed. Their lives are being crushed out of their bodies by his every, cool step in his cool, sharp-pointed Italian shoes. Step in his cool, sharp-pointed Italian shoes. Every step, there's this word Holocaust, because in the Second World War, so many people were killed in the concentration camps. They say 6 million. So easily, a person takes a step, easily. I mean, it is not out of reason to suppose that 6 million unseen living entities are annihilated just with one step. You see? And he's taking so many steps to show off, to show himself off to all the other people. Here I am, Mr. Joe Cool. And then he walks into some nightclub and he sits down and he orders, of course, something to eat and drink. And what he's eating, that's the cooked up dead bodies of some unfortunate creatures. And he's drinking also, they're living entities. And everything they're living entities. That's the nature of this world. So he's consuming these living entities. And so in all of our sense gratificatory activities, we are causing pain. And of course on the human level, in human interaction, so much pain is going on in these relationships, so-called love relationships. Two people meet and they so-called fall in love. They become totally immersed in one another. But then when they become sated, I explained that word the other day, when they become full up of one another, when it's no longer any fun to be with this person, and then the relationship is broken off, and that's heartbreak. See, pain. So anyway, we don't have to go into all this detail. In the name of sense enjoyment, we're simply creating pain. And we ourselves are suffering too. Because this sense gratification is not actual happiness. It only seems like happiness because we have these urges of lust pushing us. And when we gratify them, then we feel some relief for a few moments. Like the sexual urge, one becomes overpowered by sexual lust. And if he or she can gratify that, then they feel some relief from that. And that's taken to be pleasure. But Krishna very deftly analyzes this in 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yehi samsparsaja bhoga. That this connecting the senses with the sense objects in the name of gratification, bhoga, dukkha yonaya evate. It is certainly only the cause of suffering. Certainly the only thing that really comes out of it in the end is suffering. And that's so easy to understand. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand this. It's very simple, because all of that sense gratification is based on this body. And what is the fate of this body? What is the fate of this body? Of course, now, looking out at all of us, we're all in nice, young bodies. But it won't take long, believe me. I'm already in my 50s. I remember when I was in my teens and my 20s. Quite frankly, it seems like yesterday. You know, the older you get, you look back and you really, where did those years go? So, you know, one day we're all going to be old and decrepit and wrinkled up and, you know, it happened if we live that long, if we're that fortunate. And then it becomes very clear what this body really is, because that's what the body is destined for. You see, suffering. That's what it is, suffering. And then one realizes in that state, when one is old, when no one, you see, old man, old lady, who cares for them? I remember, this is a rather shocking thing to have to say to you, but it's a memory, a clear memory I have. And, you know, it was... you know, you sometimes see things in life that really strike home a lesson. So therefore I'm telling you this, not really to mock anyone. But I remember when I was visiting the city of Vienna in Austria, this was years and years ago, back in the 1980s. And I remember seeing a woman, she was getting off a streetcar. And this woman, she was a very old woman. But she had dressed herself up like a young, sexy 20-year-old girl for some reason or other. She was wearing a very short skirt, and her, you know, her legs were showing, and she had all kinds of makeup on. And I mean, she had done everything possible, you know, that a young woman would do to make herself beautiful. But she was... and she looked like she was, I don't know, 75 years old. And she was even trying to move like a young, you know, beautiful girl. And I was watching that. I watched her step off the streetcar. And I was watching on the streetcar, you could see there were men, young men, and they were all looking at her, and they were all like... They were all, you know, doing this whole show of mockery and disgust. They were thinking, it's absurd. What is she doing? So Srila Prabhupada, he used to explain like that too. When we get old, then sense gratification is not possible. And if an old person is still trying for it, he just makes a fool out of himself. Everyone just laughs. I'm giving you this as an example, but actually Srila Prabhupada himself pointed this out. He actually pointed it out in a very remarkable way. He gave himself as an example. He said, just like I am old man. So old man is expected to be grave, reserved, wise, you see. But if I would go out to the clubs and try to enjoy it, then I would make a mockery of myself. No, who would take me seriously? Prabhupada was talking like this about himself. But you see, that's the fate. Everyone is faced with that in just a few years' time. So then these memories that we have of sense gratification when we were young, these become like ghosts. You see, for an old person who's still absorbed in sense gratification, he can't enjoy now. So he becomes ghostly haunted by these memories. And then Prabhupada spoke of how in Paris he had seen himself, he said he hadn't seen himself, but he had heard from friends, Indian friends who had visited Paris, that there are these clubs where women dance on stage, naked or half naked, and old men, 70, 80 years old, they pay a great deal of money just to see this. Although they're not capable of enjoying anything anymore. Their bodies are, finished for sense gratification. But the thing is it's still there in the mind. You see? They're still absorbed in low-grade lusty affairs. So therefore they can't give it up. So you see, this is what Krishna means. Dukkha yona evache, all this sense gratification, it is ultimately simply the source of misery and nothing else. All this enjoyment we have as young people, it just haunts us when we become old. We're remembering, oh, this beautiful girl, remember she was so nice and she loved me and I loved her. Where is she now? You see. Just all this sadness and melancholy. Dukkha yona evate, adyantva kaunteya, because this sense gratification has a beginning and an end. So nateshu ramate buddha, one who's Buddha, one who's intelligent, will not seek pleasure in those things. So, but this is controlling this mind. This is the main business. This is, dhyana yoga, or in bhakti yoga too. This is what we want to achieve. Manaksu, a purified mind. A mind that will, instead of remembering our own sinful eating, sleeping, mating, defending, will be able to remember the original, pure, transcendental eating, sleeping, mating, defending of Lord Krishna in the spiritual world. But that is a great task. That is a great task of the yoga system, which Krishna is explaining in Bhagavad Gita. So there is danger of slipping back. There is danger of being pulled back by one's strong mental attachments. As I said, these sinful desires, these materialistic desires, they're like seeds deeply planted in the heart. We're not aware of them. This is why psychology is so mysterious. Things are happening in the mind that we don't understand. We have dreams at night, strange dreams. We don't know what they mean. It's because deep in the heart, there are all these ancient memories, ancient desires, and they're still cooking. They're always cooking down there. And they come up, just like when you cook, you heat up a pot of water. What happens? Bubbles come up to the surface. You see, so bubbles are coming up from deep in the heart into our surface mind and causing us so much disturbance. So therefore there are problems for one who takes to this path of attempting to control the mind. So then Krishna, because Arjuna has in a few verses previously expressed that it seems to me that the mind is more difficult to control than the wind. How can one conquer the mind by this dhyan, by this meditation? And what happens to one who falls down? one may fall down from the path. So what will be his fate? Because for spiritual life he has given up, he has given up the activities of the ordinary materialistic people. He's renounced that, no more of that. And he's tried for the pure spiritual path. But what if he stumbles? Then what's his position? Arjuna's doubt is he has no position then. He has neither material success nor spiritual success. So he's lost. Like he gives the example of a cloud that gets blown away into nothingness by the wind. So we're hearing Krishna's answer. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashash Tosya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Kritkaschid Durgatim Tata Gachati. I won't go through the word for word because I've already talked so much already. Sorry. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Prita, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities, does not meet with destruction either in this world nor in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17, Sri Narada Muni instructs Vyasadeva as follows. Chaktva svadharmam charanam bhujam harer vajan apakvota patit toto yadi yatrakva va bhadram abud amushya kim ko bharta apto bhajatam svadharmata. If someone gives up all material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. On the other hand, a non-devotee may fully engage in his occupational duties and yet not gain anything. End of quote. For material prospects, there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. A transcendentalist is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness, one may attain the highest perfection if it is completed. But if one does not attain such a perfectional stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reaction for not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge the transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. The Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reaction for not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he is still not a loser, because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so even if he is low-born in the next life. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. The purport may be understood as follows. Humanity may be divided into two sections, namely the regulated and the non-regulated. Those who are engaged simply in bestial sense gratifications without knowledge of the next life or spiritual salvation belong to the non-regulated section. And those who follow the principles of prescribed duties in the scriptures are classified among the regulated section. The non-regulated section, both civilized and non-civilized, educated and non-educated, strong and weak, are full of animal propensities. Their activities are never auspicious because while enjoying the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, they perpetually remain in material existence, which is always miserable. On the other hand, those who are regulated by scriptural injunctions and who thus rise to Krishna consciousness certainly progress in life. Those who are following the path of auspiciousness can be divided into three sections, namely 1, the followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material prosperity. 2, those who are trying to find ultimate liberation from material existence. And 3, those who are devotees in Krishna consciousness. So I just might point out that these three divisions, in other words, this means the karmis, the jnanis, and the devotees, bhakti yogis. It's the karmis who follow scriptural rules and regulations, aiming at enjoying some elevated material prosperity. The jnanis are seeking liberation. Means they've had enough of material life, they want out. But they're not necessarily devotees of God. For them, salvation, liberation, deliverance is most important, more important than devotion to the Lord. And then finally, those who are devotees in Krishna consciousness. Those are the bhakti yogis. So to continue, those who are following the rules and regulations of the scriptures for material happiness may be further divided into two classes: those who are fruitive workers and those who desire no fruit for sense gratification. Yes, so in the first class, the karma yogis, there are the sakama karma yogis and nishkama karma yogis. Sakama means they are doing their duties because they have goals in mind. They have worldly goals. They've read in some scripture. Like this is very prominent in India. That if you, people, you see there's so many temples in India to demigods. And very popular among these demigods are Lord Shiva and Lord Ganesh with the elephant head, and Durga Devi and Lakshmi, but Lakshmi worshipped by herself without Narayan. So these are some very popular deities that are worshipped. And the people who go to these kinds of temples, they're going with some purpose in mind. They have some particular prayer to Ganesh or to Lakshmi that I want a lot of money, I want to get a beautiful wife, I want to get a certain position in my company, like that. So this is called Sakam Karma Yoga. Sakam, full of desires. And then Nishkam means without desires. One is doing one's duty in a detached way, simply because it is righteous, simply because the scripture says, do it like this, so therefore they do it. So of course the Nishkamis, they are more advanced. So those who are after fruitive desire, fruitive results for sense gratification may be elevated to a higher standard of life, even to the higher planets, but still, because they are not free from material existence, they are not following the truly auspicious path. The only auspicious activities are those which lead one to liberation. Any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization or liberation from the material bodily concept of life is not at all auspicious. Activity in Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity. And anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. And because the Eightfold Yoga system is directed towards the ultimate realization of Krishna consciousness, such practice is also auspicious. And no one who is trying to his best in this matter need fear degradation. So Srila Prabhupada in this purport starts off by quoting Narada Muni's instructions to Vyasadeva. And in this chapter 5 of Canto 1, Narada Muni speaks also in another verse of those who are Rasa graha, he calls them. They have, just as if this verse saying, apparently they may have fallen down from the path of Krishna consciousness. They have fallen back into material activities. But if they have achieved taste, rasa, for the nectar of the lotus feet, and specifically the holy name of the Lord Mukunda is mentioned. Mukundangri. This word is used, the lotus feet of Mukunda. So if they are rasa graha, then Narada says they can do nothing else except again and again remember that nectar that they had tasted when they were actively engaged in devotional service. So you see, this is the when Prabhupada writes here that Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity. This is the full meaning of it. That by Krishna consciousness one achieves a higher taste of happiness, a transcendental taste of happiness, which is never lost. And once we have tasted that, then our memory will go back to that. We have seen ourselves the practical proof of this. There's a video series called Srila Prabhupada Memories. I think it's now in 33 parts. And so these are, each video I think is half hour. And you see, usually on each video there's 3 or 4 different disciples of Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, speaking of their knowing Prabhupada, their interaction with Srila Prabhupada. So many of these God brothers, this is so many years later, God brothers and God sisters. So it's just by seeing them on the video, it's clear that they're not, what we would say active members of ISKCON anymore. Some of them are having beards and long hair, dressed in quite ordinary clothing. But the amazing thing is that as soon as they start to talk about Srila Prabhupada, then you see their faces become very full of light and they become very joyful and they're tasting this nectar of the association of Prabhupada. So this is Rasa graha. They have attained Rasa of Mukundangri, the lotus feet of Mukunda. Now this name Mukunda is very appropriate. I told you again this word ku, bad, as opposed to su, good. So just like there's Prabhupada says su yoga and ku yoga. Yoga means to connect the mind to something. So if we connect the mind to Krishna, that's very nice yoga. But if we connect our mind to Maya, to illusion, that's very bad yoga. So everyone is a yogi. Everyone's mind is connected, absorbed, remembering, meditating on something. But the question is whether it's a good for you or not, spiritually. So this word ku means the bad things, the Maya that our mind gets entangled in. And of course, as I said, our mind is filled up with bad things from so many births in the past. But the holy name Mukunda means that Lord who delivers you from all those bad things. Because Krishna is there in our heart. You see, beyond all that layers of filth, layers, the heart in its subtle form. We can even think of it as a kind of like an onion, onion. So many layers and all very smelly. But at the core of the heart, beyond those layers of lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of sinful impressions packed on, packed on, packed on, packed on. At the core there is the pure soul and there is Krishna. So, Krishna, Mukunda, it is He who purifies the heart. And He does this as we attain, as we gain the taste, the rasa graha. Graha means, like in English language you have this word grab. So it actually means to seize, to take. So if we can seize, if we can take, if we can somehow acquire this rasa, this taste for hearing and chanting and remembering about Krishna, then Krishna, by His kindness, He removes the dirty things from the heart. And that is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. That is the whole point of the famous Chatushloki Gita in the 10th chapter. You see? In text 9, there's these 4 essential verses of Gita. So in the first text 8, Krishna is establishing His position as the source of everything, the origin of everything. And He says that those who know this, they are the ones who are wise in this world. And no one else is wise. If they do not know that Krishna is the source of everything, then they have no wisdom. And those who actually have this wisdom, who actually understand my position, they will become my devotees.